when you are coming at people from an ungrounded, dysregulated state, and you're trying to speak or communicate with that state, what they hear is not the words you're saying, is the state you're in when you're saying it. So what you actually want to communicate will get lost in translation. Hello, my dearest entrepreneur friends. Welcome back to another video. This video is going to be all about how to be a grounded, emotionally intelligent, and contained communicator. Okay? So why do you want to be like that? First of all, what you need to understand when it comes to conversations is that when you are exchanging words, you're not just exchanging words, you're also transferring a state. Your state can positively influence people if you're using it well, but there are certain states that are negatively influencing people, and not just relationally, like not just in personal relationships, but in business as well. And especially because we are all entrepreneurs here, I want to put extra emphasis on this conversation and why it's so important. I'm also going to share with you 4 rules that you need to follow if you want to be a grounded, contained, and emotionally intelligent communicator. Okay? So I want to kind of stay with the states a little bit because I want you guys to really understand what I mean by that and how does it affect the other person. So let's assume you're just working and all cool and there's nothing going on for you, very much a calm state, and a frantic phone call comes in, already disrupting your rhythm, your mom complaining on the other side of the phone, super worked up. In that scenario, what do you think happens to your nervous system? So if you are anything like a sensitive person, what happens to your nervous system is that you get affected by her state, and you also find yourself, your pulse is speeding up and kind of worked up by what she's saying. And also at the same time, now what's end up happening is that you're not only listening to the words she's saying, but you're listening to the words she's saying, you're trying to manage her by co-regulating with her in real time, at the same time regulating yourself so that you in your calm state can retain calmness while she's ranting on your phone for you. Now, if you're someone who has grounded and contained energy, what's end up happening in this scenario is that people can come at you with dysregulated states, and you would be able to absorb that and not let it affect you. So it's almost like you are absorbing a shock, like someone is touching the water, there's ripples, but underneath the water is still. So the ripple is present as long as there was the motion, but after that, it smooths out, basically. That's what happens to you if you're grounded. And at the same time, if you remain grounded and when someone is hectic, you can give that grounded energy back to the person in which they managed to come back to normal baseline as well. Okay, let's imagine a business scenario in which you are just about to get on a call with a client and the client arrives already angry, and you find yourself affected by their anger because they weren't able to come to a meeting in a calm, grounded, and contained way. So what does that mean when we are contained? When we are contained, it doesn't mean that we don't feel our emotions. In fact, we feel them deeply. It's just that we absorb it and we let that be processed internally instead of externalizing it to other people. It also means that we are able to take space to process and come back to respond when we are back to cool cucumber state. So when we are able to stay grounded in the way we communicate, we also signal to the other person, hey, it's safe for you to be around me. This, you don't have to manage. You don't have to manage me. I can manage myself. I'm all good. Now let's focus on the message itself of what I want to communicate with you or what we are communicating so that the state gets out of the picture and we can just only focus on the message, the timing, and the capacity of the other person. We're going to talk about that in a second. So it's very important for you to be a grounded, contained communicator because if you want to get your point across, you have to make sure your state in which you are going to approach the conversation is something that creates safety in the other person. So the other person doesn't feel like they have to manage you. They have to brace themselves. They have to be like, oh my God, like, oh, what is it this time? Like, right? So you don't make the other person think that they have to do extra labor for you. So I guess by now you want to know how to be communicating from a grounded and contained state. Okay. So the very first rule for you to be able to communicate in a grounded and contained way is when the emotions happen, when the storm happens, you pause and you don't speak. Okay. So when I'm in the storm of the emotion, when I'm all worked up and I'm all being affected, and this just happened right now, I'm taking a beat and I pause and I process. The second rule is to actually reflect and process what those are. Like, what are my emotions? What am I feeling? What does that mean? What's going on for me? So when I'm reflecting on my own state, now I was feeling the emotions and now I'm reflecting on my emotions on rule 2. Then I can also at this state validate my own emotions. And this is key. So once I'm in this state of, let me reflect on what just happened. I felt it, processed it, and now I'm reflecting on it. This means that at this stage, I'm able to then step out of it and look at it like an observer role. And in this scenario, I can also say, okay, that makes sense that you felt that way. Okay, this is completely normal. I understand how that was for you. So I'm able to draw the conclusions. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's cool. Maybe it's time to talk, but no. The third rule in communicating in a grounded and contained way is the other person and their capacity and receptivity. So for example, let's assume I want to talk to my sister and I felt my emotions. I kind of reflected on them and I think I'm ready to talk about what just happened. What ends up happening is I need to see if she's able to hear what I have to say. So if I talk to my sister and I just call her out of the blue and she's mid-work, and I have all my findings, I'm ready to kind of tell her all about it, but she is not in a state where she can even be receptive of what I'm saying because she's focusing on her work, she's completely elsewhere. Then no matter how much pre-work I was doing, it won't land because she cannot possibly be in a listening receptive state. So this is very important. And this is where a lot of people make mistakes. Getting the state right is very important. And also you need to adjust what you're saying to the capacity of the other person. And for that, you need to slow down and actually attune to the other person. This is very funny because it happens to us all the time. But sometimes I would have a conversation with my partner. I would notice his attention drifting and I would stop speaking. And actually, I would stop speaking and I would just sometimes leave the room and just go on and do my own thing. And about 30 minutes later, my partner would be like, hey, where did you go? Because he got sucked into his work or something and he haven't noticed that I noticed that he wasn't there with me anymore. And in that state, I'm not going to speak like, what's the point? Like, I don't want to broadcast. Like, I want to have an exchange with the person that I'm talking to. And if I'm noticing that they don't have the receptivity to hear what I have to say or be present with me, by all means, I'm not wasting airtime. This is energy for me. So I'm good. I'm good to walk away and come back to it when he has the bandwidth and the receptivity level to hear what I have to say. You have to also kind of understand the capacity of the other person. And, this is also like smart way of communication in terms of the words that you're going to use, the phrasing, how you're going to help the other people understand. Are you going to use examples that that would enter them so they understand you? Like, I think those are all like finesse in these terms, but just make sure that at this state, you are understanding and attuning to the other person so that you understand when to speak and when to maybe find another person or another time. Okay? Very important. Now, rule 4 is speak. Now that you felt your emotions, reflected on them, found the right time and the receptivity with the person that you're going to talk to, 4th is that you actually need to now speak. And I love this so much because you might be thinking, okay, well, I can say whatever I want. Great, you can. But to me, if I'm communicating with people, I'm communicating from truth. I know that this is very trivial, but truth is very important in terms of communicating. There's inner congruence. So what is true within you is exactly what you're communicating outwards, because people can feel if there is a mismatch between your words and your state. Like, congruence is something that people can pick up really freaking fast. So speaking from congruence and truth is the baseline of all communication if you want it to be effective. But especially in grounded communication, this is a key thing that you need to understand. And that is that you communicate not necessarily to get validation. What does that mean? It means that if I'm expressing something to you, I did the work. And if I'm a grounded communicator, I don't talk so that you validate me, so that you give me a solution, unless I specifically am looking for an advice in which I can preface like, hey, I am curious to know what you have to say. That's cool. But I'm not seeking validation. And that makes the exchanges an exchange of perspectives. That's what I love the most, that I'm communicating in a grounded and contained way. So I'm also speaking for my truth. I already validated myself. I'm good. I don't need you to validate me. I'm just sharing my findings with you. And so you can share yours. And I'm here and open to hear your perspective. This is also very important. I'm not trying to change the other person. I'm not trying to change their viewpoint. If you are a grounded communicator, you don't want to change the other person. You can be with the person. You're just able to be with them, sit with them, and hold space for them, because your nervous system is not going to be spiking over what they're saying, because then if they ground themselves and you are both grounded, there's literally zero management needed. So you can just focus on the conversation itself. And also you can come open-minded, curious to then want to understand them better. And I would also say that maybe tolerant would be a really good word for this, because I can take our differences. I enjoy our differences. So you know how you learn about yourself through validation or contrast? Like, I enjoy contrast a lot, because it's by contrast of me talking to different people and us being grounded, contained, emotionally intelligent communicators. I feel how we are different and I celebrate that. Like, I can see how I am different compared to you, but neither is good or bad. It's just different. So there is space for you to be who you are, and there's space for me to be who I am. And we don't have to manage each other's emotions. We are all both A-okay, complete. We can just come together and have an enjoyable exchange of a conversation. Inside of the Human to Human program, we talk a lot about creating emotional safety, creating an environment where people feel safe around you in your leadership. So if you're curious about the program, you can drop me a message, or you can sign up for the waitlist I'm going to put the link in the description or comments wherever you see it, and you get notified when we launch. Okay? Thank you so much for watching or listening to this one. Good luck.